This little blue box is one of the most recognized objects on the planet. That exact shade of blue is so famous it has its own name, Tiffany Blue, and the company owns it as a trademark. For nearly 2 centuries, Tiffany Co. was the most American name in luxury. The diamond engagement ring as we know it, the setting that made it famous. Breakfast at Tiffany's. Audrey Hepburn staring into that Fifth Avenue window. Tiffany wasn't just a jeweler, it was a piece of America itself. So here's the twist almost no one realizes. Tiffany isn't American anymore. The most iconic jewelry brand the United States ever produced is now owned by a French company, bought for nearly $16 billion. This is the story of how a New York store that made just $4.98 on its first day became a global empire, and how, after 184 years, it was sold to the largest luxury group on earth and stopped being American at all. It comes in 3 parts: the founder who invented American luxury, the diamond and the movie that made Tiffany immortal, and the French takeover that ended its independence forever. Let's begin in New York City in 1837 with 2 young men in a tiny shop selling stationery and trinkets. In 1837, a 25-year-old named Charles Lewis Tiffany opened a store in Manhattan with a partner, John Young. It was called Tiffany & Young, and it was not a jewelry empire. It was a fancy goods store, selling stationery, umbrellas, and decorative odds and ends. On its very first day, the store reportedly took in just $4.98, less than $5. That was the beginning of one of the most valuable names in the history of luxury. But Charles Lewis Tiffany had an instinct that would define the company forever. While other American merchants competed on price, Tiffany competed on quality, taste, and presentation. He insisted on fixed prices, no haggling. The price on the tag was the price, which was unusual at the time and signaled honesty and class. By 1853, Tiffany took full control of the company and renamed it Tiffany Co. He turned it into a dedicated luxury house, focused on the finest gemstones and silver. And he began doing something brilliant. He made Tiffany the American authority on luxury, the place where the new American rich came to prove they had arrived. Tiffany understood spectacle. When he acquired a massive 287-carat rough yellow diamond in 1878, he had it cut into one of the most famous diamonds in the world, the Tiffany diamond, a 128-carat yellow stone that became a permanent symbol of the brand's prestige. He bought up gems from European aristocrats who needed cash, earning the nickname the King of Diamonds. Tiffany wasn't following European luxury. It was building an American version of it and selling it back to the world. And then Tiffany did something that touched almost every life in America. In 1886, the company introduced a new way to set a diamond on an engagement ring, raised up on slender prongs, lifting the stone off the band so it caught the maximum amount of light. 3 years later, it became a film starring Audrey Hepburn, opening with one unforgettable image: Hepburn in a black dress, stepping out of a taxi at dawn, eating a pastry while gazing into the window of Tiffany's Fifth Avenue store. That single scene fused Tiffany forever with elegance, longing, and the American dream. You cannot buy that kind of cultural power. Tiffany got it, and it lasted for generations. But here is where the cracks begin, and they are the quiet, modern kind. By the late 20th and early 21st century, Tiffany was a massive public company, traded on the New York Stock Exchange. And that is a very different thing from a family empire. The Tiffany family was long gone from control. The company belonged to shareholders, run by professional executives, answerable to Wall Street and to its stock price. Tiffany the icon had become Tiffany the asset, a brand that could be bought and sold like any other. And by the 2010s, Tiffany had a problem. The brand was iconic, but it was struggling to grow. Younger shoppers were drifting toward newer, flashier luxury names. Sales were sluggish. The blue box still meant something, but the company behind it felt a little stuck, a little old-fashioned. To Wall Street, an iconic brand that isn't growing fast enough isn't a treasure. It's a target. And the most powerful predator in the luxury world was watching. That predator was LVMH, the French luxury conglomerate run by Bernard Arnault, often the richest man in the world. LVMH owns Louis Vuitton, Dior, Mout, Hennessy, and dozens of other brands, and Arnault wanted one thing Tiffany could give him: a dominant position in jewelry, especially in the American market, where Tiffany was the crown. In 2019, LVMH made its move and agreed to buy Tiffany Co. But the deal almost collapsed. After the agreement, the pandemic hit in 2020, luxury sales cratered, and LVMH tried to back out, arguing the brand had lost value. Tiffany sued LVMH in a Delaware court to force the deal through. It became one of the most dramatic corporate battles in luxury history. The icon of American jewelry, fighting in court to be bought by the French. In the end, they settled. LVMH agreed to a slightly lower price, and in January 2021, the deal closed for around $15.8 billion. The moment that deal closed, something quietly historic happened. Tiffany Co., founded in New York in 1837, the most American luxury brand ever created, was delisted from the New York Stock Exchange. It stopped being an independent American company. Its leadership was replaced with LVMH executives. Bernard Arnault put his own son, Alexandre, in charge of revamping the brand. After 184 years, Tiffany belonged to Paris. And here is the bitter irony, the same one we keep finding. LVMH didn't destroy Tiffany, it supercharged it. With French money and marketing muscle behind it, Tiffany was relaunched for a younger generation. Jay-Z and Beyoncé became the faces of the brand. Sales exploded. LVMH's jewelry division nearly tripled its revenue the year after the acquisition. The brand has arguably never been more powerful or more profitable. But it isn't American anymore. The blue box, the engagement ring, the Audrey Hepburn dream, all of it now generates profit for a French conglomerate. So let's count what happened to the original Tiffany. The founder, gone. His name on the door, but his family long out of control. The independence, gone. Sold to shareholders generations ago, then sold to France. The Americanness, the single most defining quality of the brand, gone too. Kept alive only as marketing. That little blue box still means love, elegance, and New York glamour. It just no longer belongs to America. Charles Lewis Tiffany built American luxury out of a store that made $5 on its first day, and his successors sold the whole thing. The diamond, the dream, the color of the sky in a box, to the highest bidder across the ocean. That's the rise and quiet fall of Tiffany Co. Because here's the truth, this channel keeps digging up. A brand can mean everything to a country and still be just a number on a contract when the right buyer comes along.